All right. Hi, guys. Happy Friday. Thanks for joining us. We are Anu and Igor. We're the owners and founders of Vinousreverie Wine Merchant, wine shop out in Walnut Creek, California. And we've got the shop for the adventurous wine drinker, and you're watching the show for the adventurous wine drinker. So every Friday at 9:30, we review a wine and we chit chat about wine and various other topics.
Yes.
So yeah. So today we're tasting this Hungarian wine. But before we do that, I know that you have a tangent to start with.
Yeah, it's I had a conversation with one of my regular customers yesterday, and I found it to be very illuminating and profound. So let me kind of give it's a little tangent, a couple of minute like overview, and I'll tie it into a conversation I had about a week ago with a different customer. The customer came in and we had a conversation. He said, I like Amarone wine, which is a famous red wine from the Veneto region in northern Italy. And I was like, okay. And he mentioned to me, he went there, he went to a winery, he gave me the name of the winery. He's like, hey, you know what? If you ever come across that winery, let me know. Mm-hmm. So, I'm like, a lot of customers give me that
recommend wineries to you.
Yeah. So I didn't think too much of it. But then yesterday when I had a conversation with the gentleman, it was really profound because he started talking about how he visits local restaurants, and now he's conscious when he goes to the restaurant, he looks at their wine list. And all he sees are, for the most part, he said, are Napa-based wines.
Right.
Very little international wines, maybe even some Sonoma wines, but it's mostly just dominated by Napa. Mm-hmm. And even Napa, frequently, he says, is highlighted. The word Napa is bolded on the menu. So, and obviously, I know, I especially international wines, I think they're more interesting, but, that's just the culture here is just dominated by these wines.
Right.
So we were just going back and forth, and then he says like, it seems like everything is just around the service.
Right.
And I was like, okay, it's around service. Just take it as a passing. And then as I was thinking about it later in the evening, I'm like, oh my god, like I totally understand like what's happening now. So, and you probably heard this like everybody else, like U.S. is a service-based country now. It's not manufacturing anymore. The manufacturing has moved out. So, I've heard that before, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's true.
People it has moved
vacation, out. Yeah. There's obviously everything has moved out, and that's kind of what it is. But when he kind of mentioned that to me, I'm like, oh, service-based, and I thought of this marketing guru that I frequently listen to, Gary Vaynerchuk. Okay. He once said like, oh, everything is a commodity. And he just made this like blanket statement. And initially I was thinking to myself, no, you're wrong. Everything is not a commodity. But when I heard that statement, that phrase popped back to me, and I'm like, oh my God, Gary Vaynerchuk is right. Everything is a commodity.
Gary V is right.
Gary V is right. Everything is a commodity. And the way I interpreted that is bringing it back kind of to let's give an example of Hermes.
Louis Vuitton.
Louis Vuitton, like famous like brands. Right. When you go to these places, they're like really posh places. You get like the ultimate customer service. But where are all the products made? They're all made in China.
Yeah, frequently. They've moved to China. Yep.
To China, right?
Where their knockoffs are made as well.
Right. And the less famous brands, they're also made in China, right? So here you kind of almost have to lavish the consumer with service for them to buy stuff that's made in China, which is a commodity. It's kind of harsh saying it that way, but
it didn't used to be that way, right? Like you used to have craftsmanship and handbags, like leather goods that were like a well-made craft, but you didn't really pay attention to the brand or the service. You were like, okay, I'm buying a bag, needs to last.
Well, and kind of bringing it back to the wine industry, I'm obviously sell wine. I talk to a lot of consumers who visit Napa. I mean, we're right next to a Napa country, and it's kind of, they call it adult Disneyland. I think outside of Disneyland, Napa is the second most visited place in the United States.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's visited, and you guys, you hear me all the time, like these international wines that we sell, they're like better than Napa wines, and they're like less expensive. So why I'm like always perplexed. Why do people buy Napa wines?
Right.
And when well, go ahead. Yeah.
So it's the service, tangent, right? So you're talking about people go to a tasting room, they get great service, the views are nice, and they're having a good time, and they're like, oh, the wine was great. But do they remember the wine really?
No.
Right.
Right. So that's so Napa kind of commoditized itself. They're like, we're great, right? And they push the thing like, oh, we won the Judgment of Paris, the famous tasting where Napa-based wines beat out the famous Bordeaux houses.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, so it's like a luxury commodity. You come here, you have great views, you have great customer service, and the wine, of course, is going to be great. But the wines is not great.
Those weren't the wines that won the Paris Judgment, right?
Yeah, so. And everything, first, everything I taste, not everything I taste, that's an overstatement. Many things I taste, they're mediocre wines.
Right.
Like the wines that we retail at not half the price, like a third of the price is better tasting than the Napa wines.
Right.
And, but what's going to the Napa wines is consumer thinks, oh, it's quality that I'm paying for. But no, you're paying for the customer service that's booked in there.
The beautiful, expensive tasting room that they build.
The vistas that is put in, it's not the quality of what's in the bottle. It's like everything that surrounds the bottle. But they commoditize it. Right. That's why, when I hear terms like, oh, you know what, I have an $80 cab. I don't want to open it on a Tuesday night. I'd rather get something from the store. My first thought process is like, most likely, whatever you get from the store is better tasting than $80, like a Napa cab.
Right.
In fact, you should drink it on Tuesday night and put whatever you buy into storage
from our shop. Yeah.
But so kind of bring it back to the original point about Amarone. That's when it hit me. I'm like, oh my God, the gentleman had a great experience when we went there. He tasted Amarone and he's like, oh, I really liked Amarone because Amarone it's a special wine. It's the grapes are dried.
It's a type of process for making wine.
Yes,
right?
and it's one of very few styles that's made that way.
Right.
So it's very concentrated wine.
Right.
But
it's kind of a blanket statement, right? There's many different producers of Amarone.
There's many different
and varying skills.
Well, and majority of Amarone is not that good.
Right.
So when somebody's like, oh, I like Amarone, or like, oh, I like Napa Cab. People love Napa Cab as well.
Right. It's a blanket statement. I mean, how do you know that you like? It's not. It depends on who's making the wine and where the wine, where it's grown.
Well, like as a general statement to cover that, like if you're in a club and you get an $80 cab, mm-hmm. It's probably a mediocre wine. You're really talking about like great, let's say great Napa cabs like Opus One or Insignia.
More pricey, yeah.
Yeah, they're like $250 and up. So if you get an $80 wine, $80 cab, it's like a mediocre wine. And like for me, I have no I don't care for Amarone. I don't care for cab. I don't care for Riesling. I love great Riesling. I love great Amarone, and I great cab. And there's very little of it.
Right.
So what we're saying is like, no, it's a craftsmanship. Like each wine is not created equal.
Right.
But Napa is like, no. Everything we make is equally great. And so it's almost like this war.
Branding war, right?
It's a branding war, yeah. So on one hand, you have the, like the PR, the marketing that's trying to sell the Napa. And on the other hand, you have to kind of like, like the wine writers, like the small retail shops that specialize in in craft based like products, craft wines, things that are done by professionals, by winemakers,
not in corporate owned, mass produced by the millions of cases. It's funny you mentioned branding. It looks like craft beer is doing better than these types of wines, right? Because everybody's loving craft beer. It's like a buzzword, but these are craft wines. These are made by winemakers that really care about what they're doing.
And I think it ties in with the example we'll be having. It's like you see how like it's a specific grape that most likely none of you have heard of.
Yeah,
it's from a region most of you have not heard of.
Yeah,
and done on specific soil type that's very, very rare. So let's transition to
let's go into this wine. All right, so. You got to pronounce it for me. This is...
so it's spelled like Juhfark, but it's pronounced Juhfark.
Juhfark. So this is, I'm probably mispronouncing it, Somló Vandor, so forgive me.
That's the name of the winery.
Winery, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's Juhfark is the type of grape.
Yes, and so I think you have a picture. So Juhfark literally means sheep's tail, and I think you took a picture of that.
I did. So here is the grape. It looks pretty funky.
Yeah, so you can see it has long clusters, very tightly packed, and it curves a little bit like a sheep's tail. So
Okay.
that's the name.
I haven't spent much time looking at sheep's tails, but okay.
Well,
You say so.
well, you can see it though, right? You like the way I described it, you could see how it's like long. It's very tightly packed clusters, and at the bottom it kind of curves to the
It
left.
looks unique, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
And it's a very neutral grape. So what it does.
What do you mean by neutral? Like it just doesn't really.
So it doesn't impart too many fruit flavors, but it presents the soil that it grows on like transparently.
Okay, so it really interprets the terroir.
Yes,
So you're
yes.
really getting the terroir. It's not really about the grape. Okay.
Yes, yes. So it's a very, very high acid grape, and it's very fickle. It's thin skinned. It needs specific soil types. If it's not too hot, it's not gonna ripen.
Okay.
So
It's a really fussy grape, is what you're saying.
yeah.
Okay.
And it grows
It always is.
just about in that one tiny region in the middle of Hungary called Somló.
Okay, yeah,
So-
and I
so-
have images of Somló.
Yeah,
so
let's pull them up, yeah.
Of course, it's beautiful. So Somló is a stunning wine country in northwest Hungary, and what's really interesting about it is that it has this 1,400-foot high hill in the middle of like flat. So it's in the middle of the Pannonian. How do you pronounce that?
Yes.
Apparently, I don't know how to pronounce anything. Pannonian Plains, which used to be a shallow sea. And in the middle of that, there's this hill that you're looking at that is an extinct volcano. So that's why it's there. And what's really cool about how it imparts the kind of wine country is that, you know, extinct volcano, volcanic soils, rich, and imparts, you know, it's important in terroir. We've had a lot of really cool volcanic soil wines in the show.
Yes.
But in this scenario, the best wineries are not at the top of the volcanic area due to, you know, hundreds and thousands of years or whatever of erosion.
Millions of years.
Millions of years. Yeah, I don't even know how many years. But because of erosion, actually the best vineyards are closer to the bottom. So I thought that was really cool. And this area is gorgeous. I have a couple more pictures. Let me just show those real quick.
Yeah, that was a panoramic view. So sometimes you can't really tell. Well, I think this is a great picture.
Yeah, here we go.
So it's flat, and then it just like the hill rises, and it goes. They actually call it. There's a special name for that hill.
Yeah, it's called the Forgotten Hat of God, which I thought was kind of cute.
Yeah, because they're saying the area itself is like one of the flattest areas
Right, so it's
in
just the
Central
hill.
Europe, and
Yeah.
then the hill just pops right in the middle, and
Here.
it goes up to 1,400 feet.
Yeah, here it is. So this is a good one where you can see how it's like super flat, and there's that. It looks like a volcano with the top cut off, actually. So there it is, and it's really it's cool. So like I said, it's really imparted a lot of impact on the terroir. So it's got basalt soil, which is basically, you know, lava granules, and I've got a picture of a rock if you want to see that, but
Yes.
maybe not. You know, and so it's that combined with the Pannonian sand, ferrous clay, which is clay which has limestone in it, and I don't know if some of you probably remember,
Yeah.
but we've talked about how limestone in soil really imparts a saltiness
Yes.
into wine. So keep
Yes.
that in mind. So all of that kind of dorky soil talk is interesting to me, but yeah.
Well, you know, it's interesting. We were just talking about it. So all those factors you described about the shallow sea, the volcanic rock that imparts it, and different soil types. You know, limestone within like clay. And I was saying that the grape is indigenous to that one area, and it's very fickle. Mm-hmm. So you describe it, and then when you taste the quality of the wine,
Yes, when you taste the wine, it's like so important.
well, it's important. And you're like, when you're tasting, you're like, well, I'm not tasting service. I'm tasting.
You're tasting the soil. I mean, to me, this wine tastes like smoky, salty. Yeah.
It's not a commodity. It's craftsmanship, and arguably, you know, like Kevin says, is the most beautiful product in the world, and
Yes.
I could I second that.
Mm-hmm.
Other things that commodity that could be manufactured somewhere else, but not wine. And I think really if you just kind of settle on PR and just you kind of shortchange yourself by not tasting all these amazing vinous treasures from all over the world. And as usual, this is a wine. Well, I don't know if you mentioned it. It's actually we're tasting because it's our deal of the week this week.
Yes, yeah. So how much is it normally?
It's always 25, but it's 15 this week.
Until when? Sunday?
Until Sunday. Yes.
Sunday. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 15 for this is excellent. This is a delicious, savory. Am I interrupting? I want to do
No. Go ahead.
It's a delicious, savory wine. So if you like smoked, salt, savory, it's got some green apple and kind of green tea-ish flavors. Just very savory, delicious white wine. This is definitely... I like this profile. I like saline wines. And
that's what we were saying also. Got 16.5 points, which is about 91 points on a 100-point scale. This is a fantastic, quality, and
it's memorable too. When you taste this wine, you're gonna remember that this is, different.
Yeah, it's not like you're tasting like like in a zombie state where you're just like, oh, okay, this tastes fine to me. This will actually be a head turner. It's like, what am I tasting? I haven't tasted.
It's not like
before.
It's apple and peaches. Yeah. No, this is super different. I really like this wine a lot.
And so Tamlin Curlin from Justice Robinson, who we seem to quote like every single week.
She's a wonderful writer.
Yeah, she's a great writer. So she's the one who gave it 16.5 points. And then she kind of made a passionate plea for wines from places just like these made from grapes like this. I want to read that.
Okay.
So she said, so why would one bother with a handful of producers clinging to a side of a volcano, hewing unpronounceable grape variety from rock? Because these are extraordinary wines that taste as if they have been hewn from rock. Acidity is piercing high. There's hardness, smokiness, aloof austerity, and defiant angularity that is not always easy to understand. But to those willing to grapple with the cerebral, recondite nature of these wines and willing to give them time and age to open, there is great reward. I mean, like when
first of all, whoever has called, I mean, she's a fantastic writer.
Yeah.
She's called this wine defiant angularity.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But also, she also mentions aging it. So I know you were saying, we were talking beforehand.
Yes.
So Juhfark, when it's a young wine, can taste a little, bracing.
Austere, that's what she said.
Yeah. But when you age this wine, apparently it becomes very honeyed and complex. So
yeah, it's another characteristic, another great white grape, Chenin Blanc. Which another grape sometimes could be austere in its youth, but when you age it, the beautiful honey notes pop out. Yeah,
cool.
So it's one of the you can't age white wines. That's one of the
misnomers.
Misnomers, yeah. Probably true for California wines. You can't really a lot of them you can't
made for drinking immediately.
Yes, but a lot of these, especially the high acid wines like these, this is easily 10 years.
Right.
You could say, and this is 2018, so relatively young wine from Juhfark. And what she was also referencing, what we didn't mention, it's a tiny little hill, relatively speaking.
Yes, it's so small. Yeah, it's not that big of a country for area.
Yeah, it's an area. It's within Hungary, so it's like right.
Well, I mean, like wine country, it's vast, but this is a very small.
Well, so their wine association, they have 1,200 members.
Right.
But only about 25 of them actually make commercial wine. So the rest of the members are basically making home wines. Okay. And of those, there's just a handful, maybe half a dozen that make wines of high quality.
Right.
So we're talking about like rare examples.
Yes.
To me, this is like a treasure. Like kind of back to Napa. Napa is when I hear Napa, I don't get excited.
Well, so many of the wineries have been taken over by corporations. It's hard to get excited by this. This winery, if you don't mind me transitioning, is the winemaker is Tomas Kies.
Yes.
And actually, I was kind of reading about the winery. It's organically farmed. Which is, to me, I don't lead with that. I add that. So the wine is spectacular and it's organically farmed. But I was reading about Tomas Kies, the winemaker, and he said that about 14 years ago, he received a book as a gift when he was a wine student learning. And the book he received was The World Atlas of Wine by Juhfark Robinson.
Yes.
And he said that just recently, a year or 2 years ago, he realized that he saw that in the new version of World Atlas of Wine, his name was listed as one of the producers, fine winemakers of that area. And he was, of course, that's a proud moment for him. which is really cool. It's a cool story.
It's a cool story, and it highlights what I think is like the other treasure in the wine world, which is Jancis Robinson. I think what makes her special is that she highlights why certain wines are great, better than anybody else. And then the most important thing, she identifies the craftsmen who are the best at their craft.
Right.
So she's the queen of anti-commodity for craftsmanship. So that's why I think she's such a treasure, because that's how I find a lot of the best wines in the world, through her. In fact, I think with millions and millions and millions of wines being made, I think it's for an average consumer, it's just about impossible to find out what's good.
It's a lot to learn. Yeah.
But there's a shortcut. We say just about every week. If you go by Jessica's recommendation, you'll be drinking the best wines in the world.
And our shop is like primarily her recommendations. So. And
as far as I know, I'm the only wine shop in the U.S. who actually you could filter wines on our website by Jancis Robinson recommendation.
Hello, fan club.
A lot of shops go by 90+ point wines. Like I said, that's a good that's a good way of doing it too. But to me, if you follow Jancis recommendations, you'll be drinking the best wines in the world. That's kind of my 2 cents, my expert opinion on that.
Right. Yeah. Well, can we talk about food pairings, or what
yes?
else you got?
I think you have some cool pictures. Yeah. No. That's it. It's your time to shine.
Well, I don't know about time to shine, but I do. I'm responsible for the food part. So I was looking for Juhfark food pairings. Those are super hard to find because it's a rare grape. Yeah. But I did. I was stalking the winemaker and his website. So apparently, his wife recently served with this wine, this exact wine. Garlic prawns and coconut milk with noodles. So I thought that, if you're going to try the wine, what better way to try it the way the winemaker had it. But also, they're saying Juhfark pairs well with, and I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, Toltats Tohas. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it is
Nestigram after that.
I'm sure, yes, the Hungarians will be upset with me. But it is warmed deviled eggs baked into sour cream, and I've never heard of this, but this is a picture of the dish. I've never had it, but
so you pair it with
this wine, yeah. So I mean, I think that sounds super interesting. Yeah. I just want to try this dish actually. So.
No, but in the Eastern European cuisine, there's a lot of deviled eggs dishes. So I think this is a fantastic recommendation.
Well, I think you should always go with the food from that area, because I don't know, I think that the food from the area goes with the wine from the area. So
no, I think the dish is so kind of specific, and you have such a specific wine to go with it. I think that's actually a perfect recommendation.
Yeah. Anyways, cool. Yeah. I thought that was a fun recipe.
All right, so fun tangent, fun wine,
funky foods. Yeah. Okay. Right. Cool. Well, thanks guys for joining us. Join us every Friday at 9:30 p.m. and we'll talk more wine. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye.
Bye, guys.